In the last class, we had discussed about validation controls, various validation controls, and this class I'm going to continue with that, and I am going to show you the last one validation control which I had left. Okay. In the meantime, what I will do, since it's been 2 weeks, I'll be just giving you a quick revision of what we had seen till the last class, and today what we are going to see new. Okay, let me just share my screen quickly. I hope you guys can see the screen and hear my voice. So let me just continue with this. All right. So in the last class, what we had done was we had created a simple registration form, not for the registration form purpose, just to understand validation controls in ASP.NET. Okay. And you have come across that there are different types of validation controls available. And let me start with the first one, or the most basic one is required field validator. Okay, I guess you have examples right next here. So this is something which is very basic, required field validator. Just make sure that the data is there. Okay, what data, it doesn't matter if data is there or not. Okay, that's one. And one more important property what required field had was initial value. Like for example, the drop down. Select will be ignored, but anything else apart from select is considered as a valid point. Okay, then we had, I think, compare validator between two fields like password. I have given example as password, but it can be used in different scenarios. Okay, comparing two controls, whether they are equal, less than, greater than, etc., etc. All right, and then we had range validator, which just says between a particular range, minimum and a maximum. Data types allowed are integer, string, date, etc., etc. And then we had regular expression validator, where you pass a regular expression and the validator will check whether that the expression what you gave and what the user has entered, they both match or not. Okay, in Java you're supposed to use methods, classes, and like pattern and matcher to do all these things. Here it's just drag and drop and give the validation, it will automatically take care of all those things. And then also we had seen something called validation summary. Okay, which just gives a summary of all these things in a bullet point or hyphenated point or whatever it is. You can just display the list of errors in one shot. Okay, that was what we had seen. We had purposely missed out one thing, which is custom validator. All right. Apart from that, we had seen compare, range, regular expression, required field, and validation summary. Okay. In this part, all these other things are except validation summary. Summary, as the name goes, it's just a summary. It's not going to do any validation for you. It's just going to get the message from all validators and display in one place. That's all. All right. So let me repeat once again. All the other four validators what you have, required, range, regular, and compare. All these four are client side validations. Okay, I'm repeating it again. They are client side validations, which means when you drag and drop them, corresponding JavaScript code is getting generated. I hope you follow. Okay, all those, whatever has been done, can be done on the client side itself using JavaScript. One difference is that I am not writing any JavaScript. I'm only putting the control and giving its important properties. And automatically based on that, the validation functions are written by JavaScript from .NET framework. But the last one, what we are going to see today, is a custom validator. All right. So as the name goes, it is not specific to a particular thing. For example, required means it is doing a particular set of tasks. Range does a particular set of tasks. Regular expression for a particular type of expression. Comparing between two controls, equal, all those things. But when it comes to custom, as the name goes, you have to tell what validation. So apart from these validators, what ASP.NET gives you, if you had your own validations, okay, if let's say for example you have a server side validation, like you can even take that username. Okay, whether the username exists or not, that cannot be done with JavaScript, because you require to you are required to know what are the usernames available in the database. Okay, for all those things. And if it does not fall under the category, any validation which does not fall under these categories, you can use your own function. Okay, now in that case, what is custom validator? Is it possible to do only client side or only server side? Both are allowed in custom validator. Please understand this, or get this into your mind. There are 5 important validation controls, out of which 4 are pure client side. Custom validator can do 2 things: client side validation, also server side validation. Now, where do I use client-side validation? JavaScript. Normally it is JavaScript. Okay. So if you have something to be validated, which does not fall under any of those other categories in client-side, then you can write your own JavaScript function. Okay, please note, you cannot leave it aside just like that. You have to write a small function of JavaScript which says the argument is valid or not. Okay, if it is valid, it returns true. If it is not valid, it returns false. As simple as that. Okay, so I'll show that now, but remember, custom validation is normally used in a scenario where none of the other validators can be applied. Okay, most of the time, around 85 to 90% of the time, you can use the remaining validations for client side. They will satisfy all the conditions what we require because we have a regular expression. Whatever you're looking for can be done with regular expression as well as other things combined together. But when it comes to custom validation, you will have to decide whether it is something which you create. It's like your type of validation, not the ones which are already available. And if in case that is not possible on the client side, like just using JavaScript, you can still use C# if you are using a custom validator. All right. So with that in mind, what I will do is I will just quickly show you what we have done so far with the just quick revision. We created a simple form which says enter your name. There is a text box here and there's a validation control here. Okay. The only thing we have done here is that I put a validation control. Okay. And they are going to put a property saying that it is required. So control to validate, that's more important. Okay. Control to validate is the one which control you put. And I've just put some like message and the color and etc. etc. All these things have been put up. Okay, second one, password. That's just required field. And here in this password field, what happens is there are two controls. I have put both as required field. You can see that both these are, there cannot be empty part. Both are required field validators, which means their task is to find whether you have typed something or not. I'll make sure that you have typed something. And in case you have typed something, they both must be equal. That is taken care by compare validator. Okay, that's what we did in the last class. And then range validator. To explain what is range validator, I've put between the, again, one required field is there. Along with that, we have put range validator, which just says that the minimum value and the maximum value. Minimum is 18, maximum is 40. We have just given like that so that there is a range. The data type of it might be integer. It should be changed. Okay, by default, it goes as string. That's not going to work out if you're expecting numbers. All right, it can go to double, date, currency. These are the types of data which are available to compare: equal, less than, greater than, etc. etc. Okay, so integer. Next, choose your gender. Gender is again a radio button. Okay, so there also we have put one control that is normally required field. It's just make sure that you have to choose any one of those. You cannot leave it blank and press submit. That's all. Then drop down. Okay, here we again used only required field because I wanted to choose something. But if you see, there is the values which are there are select, MCA, MBA, MSc, big data. Like that we have given. Now, this is also a value according to HTML because it has option, it has value. All right, but when it comes to others also have value, but this is not considered for me. I want to consider this as a dummy value. So what did I do? I need to give in the required field validator. I just need to make sure that the control to validate is that drop down. Okay. And then I also told initial value is the first value what I have given. I have given the word select. So I've left it as select. That's all. All right. Then last one, email address. Again, it cannot be empty. That is required field validator. What is the format of email address? That is a regular expression. So we have put an empty required field validator plus a regular expression validator to check whether this is following an email pattern or not. That's all. Okay. And so which means we are right now we have come across 4 of the most important validation controls. Now, in order to understand how custom validation works, what I am going to do is I'm not going to take database now. We'll take it slowly, but imagine that instead of keeping it in a database, I'm going to keep some data in an array. Okay. So in this case, let me just take up register number. Okay, that will be easy for me to explain. Say for example, I'm going to add one more column. Okay, let me insert another row below. There's an empty row I've added. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so in that one, I'm going to ask the user to enter your register number. Okay, this is just an example to explain custom validation. In this one, I need to put a text box. So let me just copy paste one text box there. So I got a text box. Let me click on it and go to its properties. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is the title or the ID of my text control. I'll change this txt name to txt register number. Okay, so simple text box and form control, everything is there. Okay, it's a single line, no nothing else to be entered here. You can also change it to a number so that HTML5 will understand it as a number based thing. So you can do that here. It is not compulsory, but okay, HTML5 browsers will understand that. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a custom validator. Okay, I'm going to put just a custom validator and keep it there. Now what I need to do with a custom validator. Okay, normally I would prefer only when you have server side validations to be done, not client side. Client side you have other things. If you can't manage with any of those, then we will write client side validation function. So in this case, what I am going to do, let me just tell it in words, then we'll put it in code. You enter some number there. Okay, I am going to find out whether that register number belongs to Aloysius College or not, which means I should have a database which has all the register numbers of all students of St. Aloysius College. Let's think like that. If I have a database, so I have a method which queries the database and gets me whether this register number is a valid one or not. That's all I want to know. Okay, there can be a combination of numbers, right? So in your class also there is a combination of numbers. So when it comes to registration numbers, only those which are valid, not just a random number between 1 and 40 or 1 and 50 like that. No. Okay, but it should be valid also. So let's find out that. Now let me go to the property. Let me show you what are the properties I'm going to change. The first thing is you can either change the ID because I'm going to use it programmatically. So this ID also you can change. All right, if you want. Let me leave it like that so that you know it's a custom validator. That's all. All right, so let me just put that, remove that one and put custom validator for register number, so that you know it's a custom validator but for register number. First thing I need to give is the control to validate. Which control do you want to validate? I would like to validate txt register number. That's the control I want to validate here. Okay, first thing. Second thing I wanted to notice here, there is one property called client validation function. All right, please note this is only if you want to use this for client side validation. What should I do? All you need to do is create a small function in JavaScript and call the function name here. Type the function name here. That's all. Okay, I'm repeating it again. If you want to use custom validation for client side, create a JavaScript function with some name like validate this, validate that, something like that. Create something like that and then call that function name alone here. So where should I write the JavaScript code? Okay, here, this is an ASPX file, so don't worry about that. Let's go to the source. Let's just see here. In the this is an ASPX code. So where you need to type a script is here. Inside the content, you just type script and press tab. You'll get something like this. Create a function here. Okay, in function in JavaScript. So I'll just create it as my function. I'll say validate function, valid register number, something like that. You need to pass 2 parameters. That's something which is compulsory. Normally we never use this, guys. This is JavaScript. Okay, because using JavaScript, whatever you need to do is already taken care there. All right, but still, in case if you want to do it, let me just show you how they normally create a method. In all .NET based or C# based methods, you'll find 2 parameters passed. One is the object or the source who is creating that particular thing, and the second one is the arguments passed along with it. Okay, I wanted to just focus on the words sender args. So here I can also type that word like that only. It's not compulsory, but for your understanding, I'm putting some 2 parameters. That's all. You create a function here and then say whether it is args is true, args as valid or not. The arguments what they are passing to you is valid or not. That's all. Normally we don't use this, so I'm going to keep it on hold. But whatever you write here, just copy this name of the function and go back to its design. You can click on the custom validator, go to its properties and say validation function is, that's it. So it will call this function when you click on submit, client validation function. Okay, that should be written in JavaScript as a function and you only need to pass the function's name here. That's all. Normally we don't use this. So I'm going to delete that out and in the code I'll remove it later. Since it's a function, unless I call it will never be called. So I can write something and leave it like that. Now, next one. Let's go slowly. You see that there is an error message. So I'm going to say not a valid register number. Okay, so this is what the user will see if he is not entering a proper register number. That's all. All right, next. Let me say for color. Let me just type red so that it's a little bit. Okay, sorry. Let me just type the word red so that changes that same color. And guys, this is one property which is there in all your validation controls. Okay, set focus on error. All right, so this is when you are entering. Now imagine that the first enter your name and you have not given and you have pressed submit. The focus, which means the cursor will directly be, should it be brought to that particular control which is triggering the error? Yes, no. By default, no. Just change it to true. What happens is the validator will set the focus on the control when it is invalid. If there are multiple controls, the first control which was triggered. Okay, I hope you can try that. Okay, this is also a very important property. Okay, moving on. Here I have a simple thing. Okay, just to test whether that particular control is empty or not. That's normally required field validator's job. But since you are using custom validation, this is like an inbuilt property which just says true. If I put true, if I press with submitting just without a blank page, if I submit, this will be triggered. But now it's not only that I'm looking for, I also need to look for whether it is a valid register number or not. So let's do that now. So all these things are the important properties of a custom validator. Now, I have not written the logic for the custom validator. Let's do that now. Okay, so I'm going to double click on the custom validator. I hope you follow. Till now, I've never double clicked on any of these controls because they're all client side. But this is a server side validation which I want to do. So I'm going to double click on the custom validator which I dragged and dropped. Let me just double click on it. Okay, when I double click on it, it creates something like this. I hope the code is visible, guys. Just let me know if it's not visible. All right, so there is a small method being created. I wanted to just look at that method to understand what it is. Protected void. That's just a normal way of writing. This is the method's name. Look at the method name. Custom validator register number. This is the first part. What you see is the name of my validation control. Okay, my custom validation control's name is custom validator register number. Separated with what work it is going to do. What is it doing? Server validation. Because the code I'm about to write is C#. I hope you follow. The code I'm about to write is C#. So it's a server validation, right? All right. What are the parameters passed to this particular method? Two parameters again are passed. Number one, the source or the sender or who created this particular method, okay, or who is the one which is the source of this particular method initialization. Next, what are the arguments passed to this particular method? So you can see server validate event arguments, but let's remove remember only the words which I'm telling. Source and arguments, two parameters are passed. You need to pass the source, you need to pass the argument. That's what I wrote in this ASPX as JavaScript code also. Sender, comma, arg, something. Two parameters are passed. One is sender, which we will never or rarely use this argument, but this argument makes sure that you follow that particular structure. Okay. The last one is the argument. This is what we are focused on. What is passed to this particular method will come from ARGS. In other words, arguments. That's all. So let me just go back to this code here. All right. Now, these arguments have some property because it's like an object, right? So they have their own properties. Let me just call args and dot. Let's see what are the properties here. There are two properties which are important. Don't see the cube ones, only the one which has that wrench kind of a symbol. Is valid value. Two things only are available inside the arguments. Okay. Arguments have values and you are going to say whether they are valid or not. Simple. Okay. So if I type, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and I press submit, the argument's value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what I am going to do in this block of code, I am going to check whether it is proper, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in my registration database, and set this is valid to true. If I make this is valid to true, which means you are good to go, submit the page. But if I make that is valid as false, which means you are in the wrong register number, which means you have to resubmit it with actual register number. So let me just do it like this. Is valid is equal to false. Initially, I'm putting it as false. And in the code, I need to make sure that they are becoming true. How? When will it become true? So for that purpose, what I need to do is to find out what register number the user has entered. From where will I get that? Okay, please note, I'm going to create int. Let me zoom out. Okay, I guess you can see this. Okay, I'm going to say int register number, what the user is passing. From where will I get what the user is passing? From args. Okay, let me show you what is the issue I'm going to face. You tell me how to solve this. Okay, so I'm going to say args dot value. All right, I'm leaving it like that. I hope you can see the screen. Okay, I'm going to say that as soon as I fill this out and press semicolon, there'll be an error thrown. Why and how do I fix it? I hope you guys can see the screen. Okay, I'm trying to get the number what the user has entered in that text box, right? When this particular validation control is triggered. Now I'm going to type this. This is the code what I'm typing, because that args has only two things: is valid, what is the value. All right, so I'm going to get that value and put it in register number. But I'm saying as soon as I fill this and press semicolon, I'll get an error. Why? How do I fix it?
It's because it's string.
Yes. It's returning a string.
So we
the
have
value.
To convert it in.
Yes, continue.
So we have to convert it into integer value before taking it.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So I'm trying to call value as a property. Okay, and the value property returns a string value which I'm trying to store it in int register number, which is not going to work out. So how do I convert? If I just put value, there will be an error saying that you are trying to store. Okay, you cannot implicitly convert string to int. So what should I write to make sure that whatever it comes converts it into an integer value? Typecast. Okay, it will return string, so we have to parse it into integer. Good. So let me just parse it into integer. So I'm going to say int dot parse whatever you get from args dot value. That's it. Okay, I hope this code is clear. All I have done is I've worked with that args which is passed to my validation function. Okay, this is a server side function. Please remember that. Okay, I'm going to get that argument, and in that argument I have two different values. One is whether it is valid. Number two is what is the value which is passed to me. Okay, since I'm looking for a number here, I'm converting that or parsing it into an integer and storing it in register number. Now, in case if I had database access, okay, I need to just check if that database has this register number, what the user has passed. That's all I need to do. If I find this register number in the database, I'm going to say is valid equal to true. That's all. Otherwise, I'm not going to do anything. Why? Because initially I've set it to false. So without changing the value to true, if I run the code, is valid will always remain false. If is valid is false, your validation will trigger and say, no, not allowed. You will have to change the value to a valid register number. Okay, let me do that now. So since I'm not using database, let me just create a set of register numbers in an integer array. Okay. Please understand why I'm doing this, because I've not started with database. I'm not able to show you database code, but imagine like this. I'm going to create a simple int array, okay, called a valid numbers is equal to new int array. Okay, I'm only giving some values here. All right, I'm going to give, let's say 5 or 6 register numbers, which just imagine that instead of 5 register numbers, if I have 500 register numbers. Okay, those are the register numbers which are already there in our database. And if you give any one of those numbers, I'll say yes, you can proceed. Otherwise, no. That's what we are trying to do. So how do I put, let me just put some numbers 171722. All right, so let me say 181701, 181710, 181720, 1730. I'll just put some numbers, okay, not more. 181740. Okay, so basically how many numbers? I've just put 5-6 numbers there in that list. So this is the list of valid numbers. If the value what you are entering is in this list, then your answer is correct. Otherwise, your answer is wrong. I hope you follow. All right. Or in other words, you can change the scenario in a different manner. Let's say that these people have already registered and you are coming for a new registry. If any of these numbers you are giving as register number, which means you have already registered. I hope you get the flow, right? I'm giving with the same example two scenarios. One, either you are creating, let's say for example, I've already allotted a register number to you and I am asking you to come and register. For example, I'm saying all 5th sem MCA students register in this particular portal. All right, and I'm giving a form and asking you to fill it out. In that case, I want to make sure that the entered number, register number, is one of my students, which means I have a list of numbers which my students are having. I want to make sure they use that exact register number to log into my or fill my form. Okay, that is one scenario. Same thing, I can reverse it saying register, apply for this particular project and give your register number, which means imagine these 6 people are already registered. You cannot register once again in that name. That also I can do with the same idea. Now, instead of using an array, I would normally use a database. Right now I'm using an array because collection of data. Okay, I am manually typing it. Imagine if I had 1,000 students, I will not be manually typing an array here because it's redundant. It's too much of work for me. All right, instead of that, I would use a database. So imagine this is a database right now till we actually start with that. Okay, so this is the list of valid numbers. I'm done. Now, all I'm going to do in this particular small block of code is I'm going to go through all the values which are there in that valid numbers array. And if the value what you have entered matches this, I'm going to say whether it is false or true. That's all. Let me just show you how to do that. You know already, for each, okay, int item in valid numbers. Valid numbers is the collection of data. I'm going to say if item, the one which you got, is equal to is what the user has entered. If they both are equal, then I'm going to say args dot is valid is equal to true. I hope you understood what am I doing here. Okay, so initially I'm setting it to false and then I'm checking whether this number what you have entered is there inside this list. Okay, a list of or array of collection of data. If it is there, then I'm setting the valid to true, which means yeah, you can go ahead and submit this form. Otherwise, it will always remain false. If this condition is not satisfied, false only will stay. If false stays, you'll not be allowed to proceed to submit the form. That's what we are doing in this simple custom validation. I hope you got the logic here. Okay, so let me run the program and we'll check it and then I'll come back to the code once again. Okay, let me remove the script. It's not required anymore. I'm not using client side because almost every client side is already taken care of. So let me just see here. Register number is there. Let me just submit or run. Okay. Okay, so here in the name, if I just directly went and submitted, okay, this is not getting triggered. We are just keeping it there because we are saying a number. All right, so let me just enter something. All right, and let me put a number. Please note, since I said the type is number, the HTML5 enabled browsers will make sure that this is happening. Okay, you cannot enter anything else there apart from a number. Okay, so let me just put a wrong number. And let me put some, because since I have validation controls all over, till I finish all the forms, it will not allow me to continue to the next one. So course MCA mail address something at something.com. Okay, so now I have fixed all these errors, but still I can see what are the things I used to miss in this particular part. Let me just click on register. Okay, so now the form submitted, if you noticed it, okay, because it's a server side validation, it has to go to the server. So it went to the server, and the server makes sure that this is not a valid register number. It came back and said, no, it's not possible. You have an error. Fix this and then go, which means whatever I wrote in the register button, okay, submit button. If I double clicked and wrote some code in the submit button, it will not be triggered till this error message goes off. All right, which means I have to give a valid number. Let's say 171722, and password will keep on going whenever you submit the page, okay, irrespective of whether you're submitting to the server or not. Okay, let me just click on submit. Now it is submitted properly, no errors. Okay, it's just refresh, that's all. I've not written any code in the register, that's why you're not seeing anything. Okay, so this is server side validation. Now the disadvantage of using server side validation is the server trip. It has to go to the server, find out whether the value what you entered is right or wrong, then come back to the browser and say this is wrong. Okay, we will use this only in a situation where it demands server side validation. Okay, all the other parts we normally use client side. Now if you ask me whether it is possible to use Ajax here, yes, you can. You can use jQuery Ajax, or you can use .NET. .NET Ajax is much faster, much efficient. Without any lines of code, you can do Ajax here in .NET. Okay, so we would prefer that kind of, because I don't want to see a page refresh just to find out one or update one value. That is something which we are trying to avoid. Okay, so we will talk about Ajax in another class. So I think this is clear. If you have any questions, please do ask. Okay, let's not just keep on working. I hope you have started working with the ASP.NET. Just see how it works. Try to create some forms, and try to apply validations and stuff. Get the values from the user and see whether you are able to use whatever we are learning in your project. Okay, so be a little bit more attentive. Try to work it out, guys, in the afternoon. Okay, I guess I'll stop with this. If you have any questions, please do ask.